Hey guys, welcome back to the Magic Table. Here to upgrade your game. I'm Stephen Bowman, and this is Daniel.
Just Daniel.
Just Daniel. He doesn't have a last name. I can never say his last name right, so.
I want you to try. Go ahead. Let me hear you try.
Caballero. Caballero?
Close.
Caballero?
Close. I mean, there is a B. If you have an accent, it almost sounds like a V, but you don't have an accent.
Daniel Caballero.
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 There you go.
Caballero.
I mean, if you try too hard.
I can try hard and get it wrong. All right.
Shout out to our engineer, Sean Myers, back there behind the mic.
Yeah, he is patriotic as heck today. Wish you guys could see him. He's got USA and he's got Captain America all over him.
Eventually, we'll be able to mic him up. That's what that's our goals, so he can at least, say what's up.
Include him in the podcasting.
Of course.
So, Daniel, today I wanted to talk to you about value in the Magic game.
Okay.
So,
are we talking about the prices of cards? Because I've seen some expensive ones.
No, we're not talking about the prices of cards. Actually, I'm going to teach you guys how to get some value out of some of our more budget, financially, like the budget cards.
So how to make cheap cards useful.
Cheap cards useful.
I like it.
So in the game of Magic, card advantage is a thing. And I didn't actually mention this earlier before we started, but card advantage is basically, if we start the game with 7 cards, the number of cards that I see in the game more than you means I have a higher likelihood of being able to beat you. So
100%. It makes sense. You got to have your options.
Right. A traditional example of this is Harmonize from green is a 4-drop, 2 green and 2 colorless. It says draw 3 cards, plain and simple. That means now you have 2 more cards in your hand than whenever you started the turn.
That makes it very useful.
Yeah, it's a 3-to-1 basically, right? Now Now that's just one card. So how else can we do it? So there's 2 ways I like to look at it. There's either building value for yourself or taking value from your opponents. And in one of the ways that I like to give an example is Roaring Primodox is a 4-drop, I believe 4/3 for 1 green and 3 colorless. Okay. He says at the beginning of your turn, return a creature to your hand. Okay. He can be paired with a lot of creatures that have enter the battlefield abilities that are cheap. For instance, one of the ones that I really like is Wall of Omens, which is a white card that's one white and 1 colorless, and it says when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Another one is the green version, which is 1 green, 1 colorless, enters the battlefield, draw a card.
Cool.
So on the surface, you're saying, well, I'm investing 2 cards with Wall of Omens and Roaring Primodox. Now, when do I start getting that card advantage? And it's slow over time. Every turn that you play that Wall of Blossoms or Wall of Omens, you're going to get an extra card in your hand. And so over the course of, I don't know, a couple turns, you're eventually going to start making more value and you're going to see more cards from your deck.
The more you can draw after your initial draw step is going to just be advantageous to whoever does so.
Right.
Everyone's only going to start with 1 card added onto their list of what they have to use, their toolbox per se, and once you start pulling more into that, then it just makes it so much better.
Right. So in the course of a commander game, for instance, if you see in your whole game, if the average person at the table only sees 14 to 16 cards, and you see 25 cards, you're going to have a much better chance of seeing. That's 10 more cards than your opponents.
Of course. Now, speaking on the topic of commander, these cards being so specific and commander being a style that you can only put 1 card of each in that deck, how advantageous is it to have just the one? Like, is there a number of cards you can put to be able to draw into a value combo like that easily?
That's a good point. So you're not always going to have Roaring Primodox. You're not always going to have Wall of Omens, and so you kind of look for other ways to get value. And so another way that you can build value, say you draw Roaring Primodox, well, if you also draw into Acidic Slime, or which enters the battlefield, it's a 5-drop, 2 green and 3 colorless, enters battlefield, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. It's much more expensive than Wall of Blossoms, but you're actively interacting with your opponents and messing up their plan, disruption. And if you can do that every turn, if you're doing that every turn, then you're getting spot removal basically for any kind of problem, artifact or enchantment or land, and you can start getting value in that way. So you start in, if you were playing Roaring Primodox, you're also going to play cards like Eternal Witness is a 3-drop, 2/1. This is whenever she enters the battlefield, return a card from your graveyard to your hand. And so Roaring Primodox now can flicker that, and you can get stuff from your graveyard. Additionally, if you're going to play Roaring Primodox, you're going to play stuff like Cloud Shift. It's a 1 mana instant, 1 white, and it exiles target permanent you control, Gesundheit, and then returns it to the battlefield. So in that way, you can start getting value, maybe not as consistently as Roaring Primodox, but still having access to multiple cards that are going to get you dig you deeper into that into your deck.
Of course.
Now, there are other ways you can build value. For instance, one of the ones that I love that is like just two uncommons is Curiosity. Is a 1 blue enchantment. It's a aura that says whenever enchanted creature deals damage, draw a card. When enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. Gutter Snipe is a 1 red, 2 colorless creature that says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery card, deal 2 damage to each opponent. So
I see the combo coming.
if you enchant your Gutter Snipe with a Curiosity, every time you play an instant or sorcery at a traditional commander table, you have 3 opponents. Every time you play an instant or sorcery, you're going to draw 3 cards.
Wow.
And you're going to do 2 damage to all your opponents. So whenever I talk about building value, this is not necessarily an infinite combo, but it certainly is going to outvalue your opponents very, very quickly. So things like that, even cantrip, like a Brainstorm, draw 3 cards, put 2 back on top of your library. Now that 1 Brainstorm is going to draw you 6 cards total. You're going to put 2 back on top of your library. You're going to hit all your opponents for 2 points of damage, and you only spent 1 mana for the turn on Brainstorm.
The things in this man's mind.
Yeah.
20 years experience coming out here, and you're finding ways to just wreck shop with some of the most basic cards. A question I have for you is, I've heard a lot of different colors come out of your mouth with a lot of these different cards.
Right.
What is your recommendation as far as what colors are best for building value? What colors are worse for building value? What would you run in? Let's go ahead and keep this commander concept going.
So it depends on the kind of value you're going to be generating. So for instance, we talked about building value. If I wanted to build value, I'm going to traditionally look at green and blue to kind of build that value. If I'm going to take value from people, I'm going to look at white and I'm going to look at black. So whenever I say building value versus taking value, so building value was like I'm going to hit everybody and draw X number of cards for everybody that's taking damage. If I wanted to take value, say everybody's built this big board presence. You've got 3 creatures, he's got 2, she's got 15, whatever. And I go board wipe with Day of Judgment or Wrath of God. Suddenly I've spent 1 card, and I've eliminated 2 cards that you've spent mana on, 3 cards that he spent mana on, 15 cards that she's whatever. So now I've spent 1 card and gotten exponential value. So we're going from I'm going to play 1 creature, get a card, and do that every turn, to board wipe. Now I've gained all of that value because now you no longer have access to the creatures that you spent mana and time on.
Exactly.
So, and a way to make that kind of more disgusting is recurable ways of getting that back from my graveyard into my hand. Like, so for instance, if I was going to play a board wipe and I wanted to do it again, Eternal Witness, Reclaim, a Noxious Revival, these kinds of things get that card back to my hand to where I can reuse it. And again, if I'm going Noxious Revival, which puts it back on top of my library, I'm spending a card to put it back on top, so that's 1. Then I'm going to have to wait to draw it because it goes back on top. That's 2. So that's basically because of the draw step, it counts as 1. And then 3, I'm going to cast it, put it back in my graveyard. So I have to get rid of at least 3 creatures for that to be of value to me.
Okay.
But I never want to go 1 for 1 in a commander setting. I always want to go 1 for stupid.
You want to have a positive ratio.
A positive ratio, right? Another way that we can look at it about taking value is, say, for instance, one of my favorite cards in the game is Burglar Rat. It's it's so good.
I have a rat deck.
Yeah,
I do have a rat
it's
deck.
good. Now, Burglar Rat can also play along with Roaring Primodox. But Burglar Rat says when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card.
Okay.
Right? If I am bouncing that creature to my hand every turn, and I'm playing it every turn, each opponent is losing a card every turn. Just want to warn you, it's gonna get you killed really quick if you don't have some way of like
This is
defending
the
yourself.
guy I play Magic with, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry to hear that, guy, bro. Anyway, so this is kind of that taking value idea. Is whenever we're trying to find ways of either building value or taking value,
Of course.
and doing it in more aggressive ways that can get you targeted faster. If I'm drawing more cards than my opponents, typically that won't draw a lot of fire unless I'm starting to deal damage. So
Exactly. You have those options.
yeah, you have the options, but I mean the rest of the table isn't going to now start targeting me. If I'm making everyone discard, they're coming for me.
So I'm not sure if you answered the question from earlier.
Oh, about the colors?
What colors would you rather? What would you recommend, man?
The
Our viewers
word-
want to know.
The worst color for building your own value is white because they don't have any draw mechanics.
They don't have draw mechanics. A lot more built off of counters and life gain. I would recommend. I would
Yeah, so
See.
putting 1/1 counters on stuff, that kind of thing. So you're not going to be
lifelink vigilance.
those kinds of things. Yeah, those kinds of keywords. The problem with white and Wizards of the Coast has come under a lot of criticism for it is that they haven't given white any life gain. Other colors get drawing cards in different ways. Like for instance, green gets Soul of the Harvest, which whenever a creature, non-token creature enters battlefield, you draw a card.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more based around creatures entering the battlefield to draw more cards.
So what color would you recommend being the best for gaining value?
Absolutely, blue is the best drawing mechanic. For in regards to drawing cards.
Okay.
Now, the one that I personally love is the green. I love because with green, I'm going to put a creature out there, draw a card kind of idea. That means I'm building a board presence. I'm getting value off of the fact that I just got more stuff on the battlefield to deal with, to fight with. I'm putting pressure on my opponents to deal with what I'm doing.
While also probably having some form of mana ramp as well, I assume.
Absolutely.
Crazy good.
So I love me some green. Green's my favorite. Blue is absolutely the most disgusting as far as card advantage. Black has they kind of limit their card advantage, their drawing especially, with losing life. Okay. So that's how card advantage or drawing cards happens in Black is you typically have to pay life for it.
Yeah.
Read the Bones, Night Whisper.
Sack of cards.
Sacking
it's always
creatures.
Something that's going to be
something detrimental.
Exactly.
With Black, if you can find ways of making that okay, it's something good. So for instance, if I am going to play Altar's Reap, I believe, it's a 2-drop instant. It says sack a creature, draw 2 cards.
Of course.
If you play that alongside something like Burglar Rat, I've played my Burglar Rat. Everybody's discarded a card. Now I play Altar's Reap, sack my dude, draw 2 cards. Now my guy's in the graveyard so that I can reanimate him in some way. And I've drawn 2 cards off of him, and I've made everybody discard. That's way I can build value and take value at the same time.
Okay.
So, and there's further down that idea of taking value and building value at the same time. Things like Corrupted Conscience.
Okay.
Is basically, it's a 5-drop, gain control of target creature, enchanted creature now has Infect. So with that kind of idea, with gain control of target creature, not only am I removing your creature from your side of the board, now I have gained a creature. So it's a 2-for-1 in that way, is that I'm going to just take advantage of the fact that you paid all this mana for this big giant creature. I'm going to take them from you. Thanks, bro. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Wow.
So you can take it's especially useful in Commander because Commanders are hard to get rid of with traditional board wipe and removal.
Of course.
But this takes it from her, and they can't cast it from their command zone again.
Yeah.
It prevents them from casting their command.
That's one thing I love doing. I have a commander deck that basically takes control of a lot of other people's stuff, and I've played with other people's commander more than I do my own.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, dude.
It's a great mechanic. I love that. But back to value. What, again, speaking in this commander format, what would you say be your ideal combo? Would you run a mono green? Would you run mono blue? Are you comboing the two, or would you add another color in there?
So, a great way of really gaining that value is like if I was going to go strictly on the value train and really just mess with people, I would probably play a green, black, white is my kind of flavor. Abzan, green, black, white, right? Is a personal favorite. So I'd probably play things like Roaring Primodox, like I've been talking about this whole time. Wall of Blossoms, drawing me a card.
Yep.
Wall of Omens, drawing me a card. And then Burglar Rat. All those kinds of things, they're all drawing me cards and things like that. And then I can get those things back from the graveyard to the battlefield with things like Unearth. Unearth is a 1-drop sorcery. It says, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, convert mana cost 3 or less. And so, say I have to use those cards like for a sack outlet or something like that with Altar's Reap. Now I can get it back into the battlefield, and then I can start my value engine again with Roaring Primodox and keep going.
Yeah.
So personally, I would probably go Anafenza, the 3-drop Anafenza. She's not the most broken commander. She's probably what I'd consider a budget commander, but she would be a lot of fun with that. And so it also, it'd shut off other graveyard mechanics and doesn't touch mine. And then therefore I can go and really focus on taking advantage of value, stripping everybody else's value. I can have access to board wipes with black and white. I have access to card advantage, like the enter the battlefield card advantage with like Soul of the Harvest with green. So you can do some really gross things with those colors. But
what other commanders specifically would you recommend to people who maybe want to work around other combos, such as maybe a green blue or a green blue white, green blue black, such as?
So other ways to like if I wanted to build another, Rune is an old budget commander. He's a I believe a 5-drop Rhinoceros. He has a tap ability that says exile target creature you control returns to the battlefield, right? And I believe that's at the end of turn that it'll return. But he's one that I would use with a lot of enter the battlefield triggers like we were talking about earlier. But instead of being green, black, white, we would go green, blue, white. And there you've got lots of access to lots of flicker mechanics, like Ghostly Flicker is one that exiles 2 creatures and returns them to the battlefield. So you get a 1 card and you get the value off of whatever those creatures can do. Okay. That's another really great value engine, and people get really frustrated with these kinds of decks sometimes because they dirtle. They don't, finish the kill.
Yes.
So I think at the end of those kind of value, what you're basically building is a value engine. Whenever you get done building your value engine, you have to have a way to kill your opponents, or else they're just going to be mad.
Of course.
So it's like, okay, dude, are you going to win? No? Okay, well, then stop dirtling.
You do that all the time, man. I've seen you take 30 minutes on one turn while the rest of us, run 10 minutes on all of our turns.
Hey, man, can you brew a pot of coffee? Appreciate that. Thanks, man.
Right. We're going to just go over here and run to McDonald's real quick, grab us a Big Mac.
It's okay. I might be done whenever you get back.
Think about it. Yeah, take your time. Take your time.
So, ways, like, for instance, in the green, black, white deck, ways that I would probably close out the game are just some really, really big fat creatures. Because whenever you start generating value like this, you fix your problems. So, for instance, if you are having problems with mana, being able to draw more cards naturally draws you into mana, typically.
Or into mana ramps, especially if you're
mana ramps, some mana fixing, that kind of thing. So, gaining value, as far as building value, fixes your problems that the deck is having at that current time, typically. Right. But as far as like kill shots, a lot of people will include like tutors. Tutors are not exactly value, but they're getting the exact card you need at the time.
Exactly.
And then if you have like a combo in there, so like for instance, Heliod, the new Heliod, I forget his last name. He pairs with Walking Bliss as an infinite combo.
Oh, wow.
And so you can gain infinite life, deal infinite damage. And so if you have those 2 cards in your deck, if you're tutoring, if you're drawing, you're going to eventually get it. So you can have that kill condition, a 2-card combo, just built in. Exactly. You just throw that in there somewhere, and eventually you're going to draw into it.
Especially with Commander.
Especially with Commander.
Tutors wouldn't be a bad idea, especially once you already have that board presence. Right. Tell me this. How essential would you say a maximum hand size mechanic would be in this format?
Actually, that's why a lot of people run into things like Thought Vessel, which is a 2-drop artifact that taps for colorless. You have no maximum hand size. Or Reliquary Tower, which is a land that says taps for colorless. You have no maximum hand size. both of those cards would be very, very useful in these kinds of decks, especially blue-red. Blue-red's going to just draw you a bunch of cards. Speaking of red, really quick, red's draw mechanic typically includes discarding. So
the value is lessened by that.
yes, the value is lessened, but that's where you run into card quality.
Okay.
So things like scry and discard draw or draw discard increases your quality of cards. Say you've got 5 mana in play, you don't need any more lands. Well, now you've got 3 lands in hand. Being able to go Thrill of Possibilities, discard one of those lands, draw 2 new cards. Now you've triggered any kind of instant or sorcery mechanic on the battlefield, gotten rid of that extra land you had in your hand, and drawn you into hopefully something better. And that's one of the ways that you can help.
That comboed with possibly a play from graveyard, so you can get those discarded cards back.
Past in Flames is a gives everything flashback.
Okay.
Additionally, I like to recycle my deck just in general.
Gives everything flashback. By is it like a specific cost for flashback, or are they all varied?
The cost is the casting cost.
Tell me about this card.
So Past in Flames. Past in Flames, I believe, is a double red, 2 colors. Don't quote me on it. It might be 1 red and 3 colors. It's got flashback itself for 5, but it says each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback.
So, because when you flashback, don't you have to still pay some mana?
You do.
What does that card specify it, or is it the mana cost of the cards
Well,
itself?
it does say it gains flashback, and their flashback costs are equal to their mana cost.
To their
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So you just play them again for their own conversion.
Which is used in Modern a lot in this Storm deck.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of mana ramps type stuff, like Desperate Ritual, Pyretic Ritual, Manamorphose, those kinds of things.
I would love that.
I hate you so much. No, Storm players, it's a really it's a really great budget Modern deck. It's fantastic. But that's one of those things that's cantripping a lot, and then eventually it gets to its win condition of Gutter. Sorry, not Gutter Snipe. Grape Shot. Grape Shot will shoot you in the face for 20 points of damage.
Wow.
Anyway,
That's a
so
lot.
super silly.
So I understand that you have brought a deck with you that could possibly exemplify some of this.
Yeah.
You can show us what we're about to be doing.
Yeah,
Go
let me-
ahead and pull that out, and then, ladies and gentlemen, we will show you with this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are with Stephen, going to show us how gaining value can really work in its true potential.
Sweet. All right, guys, welcome back. Okay, so here I've got a sample hand of my Shalai Voice of Plenty deck. So, supposing that I start the game with a hand like this, Worldly Tutor, Elvish Visionary, Roaring Primodox, etc. Any of these kinds of combos are just made so much easier with. They're so much easier with a tutor involved. In this particular instance, I just happen to have all the pieces. But if I go turn 1 into a forest, and then I Worldly Tutor, putting the right card on top of my library, I've technically not gained any value. I'm actually down a card, technically, in my total value engine. But, however, if I put Eternal Witness from my library on top of my library, now, whenever I start my turn, I draw this Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness says, enters battlefield, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So now, I'm going to go ahead and play my Blossoming Sands, gain my life, pass the turn around the table, untap, get my plains, and now I can go tap the 3 mana, play Eternal Witness for 3, and get back my Worldly Tutor. Now I can go into my library and get any other piece of the puzzle that I want. I untap, draw, which in this case would probably be a Cathar's Crusade, who cares? I play my land for the turn, and now I've got 4 mana available. What I can do to set up my engine properly is now I can play Roaring Primodox here. Now at the beginning of my turn, Roaring Primodox is going to force me to return a creature from my battlefield to my hand. So I'm going to go ahead and return Eternal Witness to my hand. Now I've untapped. I've got Eternal Witness, Worldly Tutor, Elvish Visionary, and now I draw a new card. We'll just say Evolutionary Leap for giggles. Now I can go ahead and play Elvish Visionary, or I can go ahead and Worldly Tutor, getting whatever it is I want on top of my life. A Stonehorn Dignitary. I don't want to take any damage anymore. When Stonehorn Dignitary enters the battlefield, target opponent skips his or her next combat phase. Now I have the option if somebody's starting to get super aggressive. I'm putting this on top of my library. If they get super aggressive, then I can stop them in their tracks. So I play this one Worldly Tutor for the turn. I've got Stonehorn Dignitary on top of my library, and I'm going to play Elvish Visionary now, which draws me a card. Stonehorn Dignitary goes in my hand. Now I untap, and I'll draw a card. Some point in there, I'm probably going to draw into a land. This is going to return to my hand. Sorry, Elvish Visionary is going to return to my hand. I'm going to draw a random card, whatever it may be. Hopefully a land. Now, I have access to draw outlets from Elvish Visionary, stop your combat outlet with Stonehorn Dignitary, and Eternal Witness. Okay. Now I can get back my Worldly Tutor and continue building new parts to the engine. For instance, if I really wanted to get crazy with it, I could start playing. Say somebody's really, really hyper aggressive with their artifacts and their enchantments. A card like Aura Shards, granted that's a really expensive card, but a card like Aura Shards now gives me value from getting value. So if I had Aura Shards in play, now I'm going to play Elvish Visionary, draw a card off Elvish Visionary, destroy an artifact or enchantment, and then next turn I get to do it again. Or if I wanted to play Eternal Witness, get back Worldly Tutor, and then destroy an artifact or enchantment. So this is part of those ways, and I'm not going to get rid of this stuff, and I'm not going to lose access to these cards until somebody starts interacting with me. And I've got some good recursion help in there. We've got Gift of Immortality. Gift of Immortality is another way of getting value. Say I put this on a secure Tribe Elder, which sacrifices itself and goes and look for a basic land and puts it into play tapped. If I put Gift of Immortality on it, secure Tribe Elder comes back to play, and then I can go get a basic land from my library every turn, like each opponent's turn. So by the time Gift of Immortality, or by the time, say I play secure Tribe Elder, I play Gift of Immortality, I sacrifice it immediately. It'll go around the table one time, and by the time I untap again, I started my first turn with my turn with 3 mana. I'm going to end up with having 7 mana by the time I untap with Gift of Immortality. On my turn 4, I'll have 7 mana available, which is ridiculous. So there's many, many ways of getting value. This happens to be one that I have built. Anyway, Daniel, did you have any questions?
I see a lot. Tell me this: how many cards did you end up drawing within your first few turns?
In this case, I wasn't focused on the draw mechanic necessarily. I was more focused on getting back Worldly Tutor so I could go get the pieces. Now you get access to having this stuff in your hand, in the graveyard, in play, etc., and you can start interacting with, start building that value very, very, very quickly.
Crazy combos, crazy value builds. I'm excited to see what else you bring us. We appreciate y'all for viewing us today, taking the time and to upgrade your game.